At PewTalk Podcast, we know that faith starts in the home. We also know that it can be difficult to take what we hear on Sunday and live it out in our homes the rest of the week. That's because information alone doesn't lead to growth and change. But information that's reflected on and put into practice is much more likely to lead to growth and change. Join us as we hear God's Word, reflect on it, and give practical starting points to help you live out your faith in your family and in your community.
Now we're live. Hi, buddy. I'm going to move my camera. Hi.
And Mom, if
go.
you're watching, I was not trying to ignore you. I just forgot to respond.
Important business.
Hi, Lacey's mom. Thank you for joining us today. We actually, she wanted to respond. We actually said no.
Yep.
We said,
Too late.
you can't do that.
We're
we have
live.
30 seconds to
We
go.
have 30 seconds to go.
Yep.
So, how is everyone? Casey,
Y'all?
how are you?
You know, I'm not doing too bad today. In fact, I'm doing pretty good, Paul.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
Watermelon rutabaga.
Rutabaga,
What?
watermelon, rutabaga, watermelon, watermelon, rutabaga, rutabaga, watermelon.
Why
Well,
would
you
you
did
eat
that much better this
those
time.
I
together?
did much better this
This
time.
is why you have to practice these things.
When I was in drama
Oh,
in high school, that
Ooh,
was
wow.
if you were in the background and you were supposed to be having a conversation, but it wasn't supposed to be heard. If you say rutabaga and watermelon, your lips look like you're having a conversation. With like it hits lots of different. I don't know. That's just what I was told to do. So Paul.
well, that's like
So
if
we'll
you
just
say
sit here.
olive juice, it's supposed to look like I love you.
Yep.
No, it's elephant shoes.
Oh, I thought it was olive juice.
Is that a Boston thing too? Olive juice.
Elephant shoes. Anyways, so
There you go.
Casey, we missed you last week.
Yeah.
I missed y'all's too, but it's good to be back.
So
I love not being able to defend myself in my Star Wars taste.
Yeah.
never, ever, never.
Jar Jar
No.
Binks.
Yeah.
My wife love Jar Jar Binks.
My wife, who hasn't really watched Star Wars, knew who Jar Jar Binks was and knew what that meant.
Yeah. It was.
Well, we
apologize.
want to be current in this day and age. That we talk about a movie that came out.
Yeah, in
30 years.
1999.
Wait.
Were
Time
you
out.
guys even
Really?
born?
Episode
then?
1 came out in 1999.
Yeah. Are you old now?
99.
22 years ago, guys.
You know,
I wasn't
read
doing the
something.
math.
Oh my.
I read something to the effect of when I hear 20 years ago, I think of 1980.
Yep.
Yes. When I hear 10, I think 1990.
Yeah.
Not realizing that 20 years ago now
It was
was
2000.
Yeah.
2001. Like past like Y2K is over and there's not.
Oh,
we all
man.
thought that was silly.
Yeah.
Where were you guys on the turn of the millennium?
I was at one of my best friend's house and neither of us wanted to be there because we were in different grades. And we both had parties that we were invited to, but our parents made us stay together because they thought the other one would be alone if
Anything happened?
no, like if we weren't if I went to the party, then he would be home alone all night, and if he went to the party, I'd be home and we both were like, oh, we both could have just
How
gone
old
to
were
our
you?
Would have
parties.
been easily solved.
I was 14.
Oh, geez.
I know. Yeah.
I know
Don't
the
ask me
real
then.
parties, right? The yeah.
So you weren't going to the same party.
No, we were in different grades, so we had different friends.
You losers.
Yeah. I'm fairly
Yeah.
confident I was probably with Brandy. We spent all New Year's Eves together.
Yeah.
And then we had children, and then we tried New Year's Eve together with children, and then just
Nope.
have vetoed that
Yeah.
since.
Once you have kids, New Year's Eve seems to go away.
We do a Netflix countdown at like 8 o'clock at night. We're like, ha! 3, 2, 1, yay! Go to bed.
There's a Netflix countdown.
There are multiple
several.
like different cartoon characters that they do
We
countdowns
did
with.
a PBS one this last year.
Oh, did we do PBS?
Oh,
I put on Netflix like during Christmas we have like a log,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
The Yule log.
but you got to put it on mute because they have some silly music on.
yeah.
I bet you could change that though. I'm sure you could
I don't
play
know.
something over top of it.
Oh, I'm sure I can, but I'm not
Yes. It's from a different input setting though.
Yes, it's all about
Yes.
the inputs. It's all about the inputs. And Stacy, where were you during Y2K?
I was at a friend's house for a slumber party.
Were you 13?
I was 14.
guess-
You were 13.
Oh my
It
god.
was 1999.
Oh, that's right. 'Cause I was thinking 2000. Sorry.
Yeah. But the boy I liked was there, so I was really excited.
I was not there. I don't know what
I
you're
didn't
talking
know
about.
you yet, honey.
At a 13, huh? And
14.
14. I'm sorry. Where were
Really?
you at Y2K?
I said I was probably with Brandy.
Oh, that's right. You told me that.
Yeah.
Okay. Where were
But
you? Were you
I had a
changing
husband.
diapers?
What?
Had
Were you
been
changing your own
married then?
diapers at that point?
No, I was 7.
engaged.
I was a little older, but not that.
7.
Okay, hold on. Pause a second. You were engaged,
I was engaged.
and you were 14 and 13, and you were 7.
Wait,
Yeah.
no. I was 6 months from being. Wait.
Did you get
No.
engaged in 2000 or 99? That'll
Remember,
help.
they had a long engagement.
We had a
didn't you?
long engagement. We wanted to be married in 2000, but we waited until 2001 as
So
I'm
99.
mentally thinking. So, yes, I was engaged in 1999.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Right?
So 7-year-old.
Jeff, please
Mm-hmm.
comment. Were you engaged?
I was not engaged.
Casey was engaged.
Casey was engaged with
Had a
whatever
tie.
TV
He was
show, whatever
engaged.
cartoon
Yeah, he was
was
engaged
on.
with
It was,
Legos.
it was probably VeggieTales. I can tell you that.
Did you stay up till midnight?
Oh heck yeah! That has been my thing ever since I
Yeah.
knew it was a thing.
Yeah.
Like I remember we were living in West Point, Nebraska at the time, and we were just getting ready to start the process of moving to Kansas. So that was going to start like 2 or 3 days later. So we were definitely at home, kind of soaking up the last moments of
Yeah.
being in West Point as a family. So
That would make sense.
Wow.
Our 7-year-old would not stay up till midnight.
No, we would not
yet.
want
No.
our
We're
in a
7-year-old to
whole
stay up till
different-
midnight because
Oh, yeah.
We're in
Our-
a different bracket.
Where were you, Paul?
I was in Manchester, New Hampshire. And at the stroke of midnight, I was crossing the bridge over the Merrimack River
Cool.
because my girlfriend and I had a huge fight. And I was like, I'm out of here. And I started walking.
Oh,
it
happy
was-
Paul
New
was
Year.
not engaged.
I was not engaged, no.
No, happy
I
New
was.
Year.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird night.
Yeah.
But I remember like hearing all the woo, boo, and I was like, great, Y2K. Of course, I looked around and went, wow, nothing shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still
No
works.
planes
Lights
are
are
dive
still
bombing.
on. Yep.
The bridge didn't collapse.
And that was like a whole,
Boy, that
It was
was.
weird.
yeah, there weren't
I
certain
remember that. And
computer systems were going to work, and
That could have been a rock bottom.
that could have been a
Wow.
Ooh,
You almost.
good transition, Stacy.
I was just hoping.
Let's point it out. So
Here's where I'll date that a bit. I heard what was going to go on based on, so I was just hoping our VCR would still work. Like that
the fact that you still had a VCR was,
Well,
It was
because it was
1999.
1999.
DVD was like brand new.
yeah, I know.
We couldn't afford that.
I'm kidding. I don't know.
Or Laserdisc.
Laserdisc.
Hey, we had a beta before VHS.
I did not have a beta.
We had a beta.
We
I don't know what a beta is.
It was
like
the competitor to
It
It was
like a
before. It was
teeny
before.
tiny
It was
little
before VHS.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I did see.
It was smaller. My friend had a beta version of. You ever seen the movie Night of the Comet?
No.
No.
Oh, when the Halley's Comet came by and the Earth went into the tail of Halley's Comet, and so all these people turned to red dust, except for some,
No.
and then some
Yep.
people turned into like zombies.
Oh.
And it was the worst copy of this movie on beta, and we're trying to watch it, and we couldn't see anything. We're like, what's going on? I don't know. In the daytime, it was fine, but when any night scenes, it was like,
What?
what's happening? We would hear sounds, and we were like, okay.
It was
All
the
right.
zombies.
and that's when the action happens in a zombie movie.
Yeah. So I would say that watching of Night of the Comet on beta was not my rock bottom. But so we're talking about rock bottom. I know we're taking
We're really awkwardly transitioning from Y2K
we're taking like this fond memory to this topic that before we had a little conversation about how this is a real hard topic to talk about.
Yeah.
I said that right. So I guess we should start. Let's start with our reading.
Yep.
Let's get ourselves in a frame of mind where David was sitting there and he had a little.
Yep.
So who's reading that today?
Casey's reading Psalm 6.
Oh, hold on. I gotta do this.
All right, what translation are you using?
English Standard Version.
Well, that's what I got.
What am I looking up?
Psalm 6, 1-7.
I should have had this prepared. What kind of producer am I?
We totally all walked down here. We were eating dinner together beforehand, and we're like, "Oh, it's 6:55. We better get down."
We better go.
Okay.
It's like we like each other or something.
All right.
There we go.
We just tolerate each other. I think that's what it is.
There's behind the scenes drama with all of us, you know.
Yeah.
We only put on a smile when we enter the studio.
I blame the cocaine use.
Rock bottom.
Rock bottom. All right, Psalm
That's
6.
a rock bottom joke.
Oh my.
So, trying to transition off of that, I'm probably the worst of us five about doing natural transitions, but it's true. That's not a strength of mine in public speaking. But Psalm chapter 6, verses 1-7. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am languishing. Heal me, O Lord, for my bones are troubled. For my soul also is greatly troubled. But you, O Lord, how long? Turn, O Lord, deliver my life. Save me for the sake of your steadfast love. For in death there is no remembrance of you. In Sheol, who will give you praise? I am weary with my moaning. Every night I fled my bed with tears. I drenched my couch with my weeping. My eye wastes away because of grief. It grows weak because of all of my foes. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks
Thanks
be
be
to
to
God.
God. Yeah, those are those
Those are
that
the
like.
ones I'm like, thank
Thanks to God.
Thanks be to God. Or like when Jesus chews you out, like chews out the Pharisees, and we're like, "This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise you, O Christ." Yeah, we can get a lot of those in Lent. But yeah, so this is one of those. It's called one of the penitential psalms, where David is just crying out to God, and he's troubled. There's physical sickness. At least it reads that there's physical sickness. There's this angst in his spirit, in his soul, and he just is waiting for relief. Right? How long, oh Lord? And so, we were talking beforehand, and talking about hitting rock bottom, because that's kind of that theme that we're looking at rocks. And as we talk about rock bottom, we realize we all have different ideas of what rock bottom might be. And we know you all probably have different ideas of what rock bottom might be, and maybe you've been at rock bottom in your life. Maybe your definition of rock bottom is, this is the worst it's been in my life. Or maybe you're at a point where you're like, I don't even know what rock bottom would be like. I feel like I've had, things have gone. Yes, I've had struggles. Yes, I've had, loved ones who have passed away, but I see God's blessings. I have a house. I have family to turn to. And so that's why, when Paul kind of introduced this, that we realized this is really a hard conversation to have, because as we were talking, none of us really feel like we've hit rock bottom. And so, but we were trying to think about what are some feelings like when we're at our bottom, whatever that is, what are feelings associated with that, for you guys? And for those of you joining us online, if what what are some of those feelings associated with that pit that you've been in at some point in your life?
I mean,
Feelings.
yeah.
Feelings.
All right,
nothing
ladies,
more than
can you talk about your feelings, please?
Casey has some
Yeah.
I know.
Casey started. So,
been thinking about
That
it.
feeling hurts right there.
feelings of hurt.
but there you go. I was going to say feelings of, I hate this word, but it's the truth. We all, no one wants to feel like a failure. And I think if you are at a low spot or rock bottom, that I have failed in some way.
That's very accurate.
I have failed to provide. I have failed to achieve. I have failed to believe. So I think maybe, I don't know, failure.
Well,
Feeling of failure.
A feeling, yeah.
because unless it's some unmitigated just disaster that happens, you can look at choices you made that, whether it's a rock bottom or at least a low point, some of it, and maybe even a good portion of it, might not be your fault, but you can find those moments where it is yours. And it, for me, in those what I'll call the lulls of my life, I haven't focused on, the circumstances. This is the perfect storm of about 5 different things. I focus on here's the one part of those 5 that I contributed on, and therefore it's all me. I failed. This is all on me. And therefore it might be all on me to get me out. And how do I get myself out? Like it's a panic cycle for me.
Right.
It's not fun. But that feeling of failure, like I wasn't thinking that word at all. And that's probably the closest thing that at least I've dealt with in those moments.
Yeah. I don't feel like I've really hit a true rock bottom, but as I was thinking about this week, there was one example that I felt probably the closest to what if I were at a rock bottom that I would probably feel like. And that was when we moved to Michigan. We'd been there 5 months, and our oldest daughter, we were at the library, and she was standing at a play table and fell. And for the next couple of days, just wouldn't put any weight on her leg. So we eventually took her to the doctor, and they took an x-ray, and she had broken her leg. We're like, well, that's really weird.
Yeah.
Like, she was standing, and she must have twisted or something when she fell. So she broke her leg right before Christmas, and she was in a cast, healed up fine. And then 2 months
2 months later.
2 months later, she was playing on the bed with Landon, and she fell off the bed and just was screaming right away. We knew that she had really hurt herself, but then the next morning she still was really upset. This was like right before bed. So the next morning we took her into the doctor, and initially they took x-rays and didn't see anything. So they sent us home, just said, keep an eye on it, see how she puts weight on it. And then I get a call later. I just put her down for a nap. They said, we looked at him again, and we think that it is broken, and we would like you to come back. And in the meantime, are you safe? And I was like, yeah. Like, you're safe at home? Like, you're safe with your husband? I'm like, what? No, yes, I'm fine. We're very safe. And so then I just kind of had this panic, like, shut down, like, what is happening? They think that something is happening here that's not.
Yeah.
And it was a doctor we'd never seen before. We'd only been there 4 months, so they didn't really know us. At this point, we'd been there 6 or 7, but they didn't really know us. So we ended up and went back, and they wanted you to come too. So as we're there,
Did they ask me to come, or did they?
I don't remember.
Did I just show up? I
don't
feel like I
remember.
just showed up and they were like on edge
maybe that's why.
because you were
So
pregnant.
I was pregnant with Sam, so he took Alex back for the x-rays, and while they're getting ready to take him, the nurse said something to you.
She got a phone call and then looked at me and goes, "Do you know why you're here?"
So
And we had kind of had this guy. I said, "Well, I'm guessing this is why." And she goes, "Yeah. So I can't take any x-rays here."
the doctor had called Child Protective Services, and so we are under investigation for child abuse with our daughter. And we're in this place where we had lived for barely 7 months, and we were kind of getting to know people, but it was that feeling of like, no one really knows us well enough to say, absolutely not. They're like,
Yeah.
these allegations are crazy.
Yep.
And so we had to take her back to the hospital. No,
Yeah,
not that
no,
way.
yeah,
we took her home
We took her home. We
as
called.
we were getting ready for bed.
No, we called We called
Timeline's
the
so
other.
like-
We called the senior pastor's wife to come watch Landon while we took Alex to the hospital because I think she got 15 X-rays in the span of this 12 hours. So because they had to do a full body scan to see if there were any other breaks. And again, Stacy's pregnant. Alex is not really enjoying this, as you might imagine. She's like just in a diaper on a metal slab, and we have to hold her down, and we know her leg's broken, and so like so then we go home. We put Alex to bed, and we're just like, there's this. All right, the day's over. We can take a breath.
What's done? What's done?
We can move forward.
We know nothing happened. We're okay.
And then
I'm getting Landon into bed, and I see red and white lights,
red and blue
lights on the ceiling, and I'm like, Anthony, he said,
no.
there's a police car pulling into our driveway.
There were 2 police cars pulling into our
So
driveway.
they came and they did an investigation. They questioned you, and then they questioned me. But the questions are like, do you have family nearby? No. Does your husband work a lot? Yeah. Like all of the wrong answers, but like, I swear this isn't what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like you have a support system here? Well, not really yet, but we haven't been here very long. Like, I wish I could tell you different things.
I think the best, quote unquote, for those of you who aren't watching the video, air quotes, the best part of this story was, now what happened the first time? And Stacy was able to say, well, I had just left the room and Anthony was alone with Alex in the library, blah, blah, blah. And then the second time, well, what happened? Stacy says, well, I just left the room and Anthony was watching the kids on the, and so it was just like, oh.
I wasn't, like incriminating. So then we had to take Landon to the hospital.
Oh, you forgot the real best part of this story. They had to walk through the house to check and make sure that we have food in our fridge and that we have a bed for our children and things like that. So Landon's sleeping, and so he's like, can I just, like, he was able to open the door and go, oh, okay, yeah, I see there's a bed in there. And then he goes to the fridge to make sure that there's food in the fridge.
For you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, Don and Pam, thank you. Because Stacy's parents had just been there.
And they always
a few
buy
days
beer
before.
when they come.
They always fill the fridge. So we open and the front of it, like, there's plenty of food. But it had just kind of gotten shoved in the fridge, and so the front is beer and cider. And I go, oh,
It gets better.
yeah, it just keeps getting better. And so then we're like, we have the conversation, we talk through it all, and we're answering all the go around questions. But the guy was the CPS guy. He was really nice.
Yeah.
He was very. He really was doing, and then eventually the cops are like, I don't think there's a threat. Can we leave now? Yep, you can leave. Okay. And we're like, all right, now we can be done. And then he looks at us and says, oh, by the way, we got Alex checked out, but we need to have Landon checked out. So we need you to wake him up.
Oh no.
This 2-year-old who loves to sleep. We need you to wake him up at 10 o'clock at night while we're watching you
and put him in the car.
And put him.
So he's like shrieking, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And so we're like, well, normally I would like pick you up and just carry you out to the car.
But now
like,
I'm afraid.
I have to be very gentle, like overly gentle. It was just, so we had to take him into the hospital. And the guy stayed with us the whole time. It took us a little while to get back there.
Yep.
But this whole time I just felt like the scarlet letter, like, does everybody know?
Yep.
And we took him back to the nurses then. And then, of course, they all know this is a CPS case. And one nurse, I'm so thankful for her. She's like, what are you doing here? She took one look at Landon. She's like, you should not be here. You should not have to go through this. I'm like, thank you for seeing that and reassuring me. Because at this point, I'm like, am I a bad parent? Like,
I'm sure.
I'm questioning everything. So I think that's like those feelings of that. So we went through all that, and then I don't even remember. Like
even the caseworker was like,
and then the
he was just
caseworker-
like, I don't see anything. We got to send this
like
off.
the emergency guy, and then we were assigned a caseworker who had to come to our house a couple times. And then we get all the paper, like the bills. So this continued. Like she, after I think a month or two, signed off and said, "Your case." They send all of Alex's results. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, through all this, the feelings were just like, I'm all alone. I've failed as a parent. There's something that I did majorly wrong that I can't control. This feeling of I can't control anything here. and despair too. Like, what if they take my children away? They have no reason to, but what if they do? And then it was this constant reminder because the bills took like 6 or 7 months for the Department of Health and Human Services had to pay for these. They said, don't pay for these yourself. We will pay for them. So when they come, just forward them to our office. We'll cover. But it took 6 or 7 months. So then I'm getting all these at least once a month past due bills and phone calls. And I explain over and over and over, here's what happened. They said they're going to pay. I've submitted everything. And so it was just this constant like nagging of it's not done yet. Like, are they still investigating what's wrong? And just this feeling of being alone and frustrated. And then every time we drove past, and I was in St. Joe 2 weeks ago, and I was getting close to that pediatrician's office. I'm like, I can't continue on this road. So I turned off because every time I would drive by it, then after that was just this tense feeling of like, that was bad things happened there and revisit it. And
wow.
Yeah.
By the way, that's still open.
No, actually they did. Like it ended up being a good thing because we found out that Alex was born in St. Louis, which is a very, very sunshiny part of the country. And when we moved to Michigan, we didn't realize that Michigan is the second lowest sunshine state in the U.S. And so
next to Buffalo,
she had. Well,
so if she had been born in St. Joe, Michigan, the pediatrician would have said, here are your vitamin D supplements. Like, you need to supplement immediately. She was a breastfed baby, so she wasn't getting it from formula.
Yeah.
So moving up, they had, I think, just assumed, like, we didn't hear that she needed that. So we weren't, I maybe once in a while was giving her, but she had a vitamin D deficiency because she wasn't getting enough vitamin D from sunshine. And so we found out what the issue was. Her bones were weak because she had vitamin D deficiency. So then we started giving her drops, and she hasn't broken a bone since. So amidst it, we see there was a reason and a purpose in this, because that could have perpetuated. But the way that it all happened,
it was a long
journey.
A long way around that.
Yeah.
So looking back, I could see that could have become a rock bottom for me and really kind of destroyed my
now you
outlook. But
you explained your feelings. What was your feelings during that?
Because you even that next day you called into the office. You're like, "There's an open investigation. Can I?"
Yeah, I was.
Come in?
I had. Because the senior pastor knew what was going on because his wife watched Landon while we were taking Alex in. But I was like, I'm supposed to teach in the school tomorrow. Can I even step foot in the building tomorrow? What? And they were like, no, you're fine. There's not until there's a
Charge.
There's a charge. Yeah, this is just an investigation. Until there's a charge, you're. I didn't really know what to think. Because, like we said, we knew there was no. There was nothing there. I mean, we knew that we weren't abusing our children. There was some frustration in there, and like how quickly all of this happened kind of against us who were trying to take care of our children. And we hear all of these stories about, some of these things that go on for years with abuse and it just kind of getting overlooked. So that was some frustration, but it really just was this, like, initially it was this gut punch of like, kind of like Stacy said, well, what if we get a case manager that's just in a bad mood that just looks at the x-rays and goes, something's wrong. It must be you. We're taking your kids. And so that's where, and for me the rock bottom is usually not this outside thing. It's because I've started to spiral. I've started to think of the what ifs.
Yes.
And all the what ifs are negative what ifs. And so I go around and around and around until I get to this point where I'm just like, I either have to, I just can't function because anything I do will perpetuate this negative cycle.
Now, Lacey, you mentioned something similar to that in our conversation earlier tonight about how you just something similar to that.
Yeah.
I'm an overthinker,
Yeah.
overanalyzer, overfeeler. That sounded bad.
Jeff doesn't mind.
No, but I will constantly, it's the same thing, whether I'm like, oh, that wall's blue. Oh, that wall's blue. Why is that wall blue? What if we painted this wall blue this way? What if we did it this way? Exactly. I can choose something and overanalyze it.
Don't overanalyze my blue wall.
I do like the blue walls. But sometimes it won't stop, and it's just like, I can't shut my mind off because I'm thinking about this almost like a tornado, because it'll start out and it's like, okay, there's all these things and maybe one or two things will fly out, but then it's still, now it's spinning faster over one thing.
Yes.
And
and
it may honestly be 100% out of my control, or not even my problem, or my issue,
or completely made up.
Yes.
Because
you've overthought it.
Yeah.
And when because I get in those same kind of funks, like things that aren't reality, what I'm spiraling on start to become reality. Like they're like, this hasn't happened yet, but there's no way it's not going to happen. Yeah. Like there's no way that things could work out just this, like the right way. Everything's going to work out wrong. So I've got to be prepared for that. It's like, and it just, it's a spiral. It just gets like, it's literally like, kind of when you watch water go down a drain, it gets faster and closer and closer and closer. And it's like,
and then it will eventually stop. But how it stops is, do you just shut down for 3 or 4 days? Do you, there's coping mechanisms. And we were discussing this. I'm like, there's lots of coping mechanisms. Some people like to exercise, some
good
people.
coping mechanisms.
Yes. And then there's bad coping. Watermelon rutabaga.
Yeah.
But there's,
Add that to the shirts.
Yeah. So, it's, I giggled about this. I'm like, well, you could turn to food, you could turn to alcohol, you could turn to Jesus. There are 3 coping mechanisms right there, and 2 of them will make your butt big and 1 will not. So, you could turn to Jesus. See it there, Casey, I did it for you.
Yes.
But
I said we need to put that on air.
Jesus won't make your butt big. But in those times, how do you turn towards Jesus?
Yeah.
What makes you think I need Jesus right now? How do you get yourself into that mindset? I need Jesus right now.
Yeah.
I don't need a bag of potato chips.
Yeah. How do you shut down the spiral?
Yeah. Because I've yet to figure that out.
And that's so. Have any of you found any? What are the good ways that you found to get out of the spiral?
I've never been in a spiral.
Okay.
Not like
so you don't
guys
get to
described.
answer the question.
I know.
For me, it's about creating good habits in the non-spiral moments, because the dangerous part when we get, because whether we have rock bottoms or whether just lulls in our life, whatever you want to call them, less than fun times will come to each and every one of us, some of them deeper than others. But if you're not reaching out to God in the good moments, or have a good faith pattern in the great moments, or just most of the time all of us are having average moments.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have that habit, then it's a lot harder to jump in and say, oh, I need Jesus right now. So if, of course, if some of our listeners or viewers are going through, lulls or rock bottoms, we're going to talk more about, what you can do in those moments, but I'm willing to bet most of our listeners aren't. And if I encourage people, create good habits, because that makes, when those dark moments come, where to turn. It's not something, what do I do now? Like for me, I can tell you in some of my darkest moments in the last couple of years, Scripture was the thing that kept me sane, because God has a track record of supplying for his people. It's not always instant. Sometimes there's a good stretch in the Bible where we'll call Bible heroes had to go through some dark stuff but I looked through those stories and saw how God provided. But it was because I created habits of doing it when things were great or average that I could do that then. I can tell you if I didn't have that moment, like at the last lull I was in, my workout habits weren't great. So I did get the advice of working out, endorphins, that's good for you. That I didn't really turn to that because I didn't have a good habit of doing it for the couple months preceding that. But I had a scripture habit.
But you've also brought up the fact that you like to avoid things.
Yes.
You've said that in the past. You said it just tonight.
Yes.
In the past, in other podcasts, you brought up, I'll avoid these things as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So this good habits that you're talking about, I'm assuming that's not one of them.
No, it's not. And because and that's not saying that it made my negative coping mechanisms go away. Like, I think that's part of the part of us being sinful, broken humans. But it made it my scriptural habits made it so that it didn't get a lot worse.
I think too, it's like it's kept you from that rock bottom.
Yes.
We're floating. We're not completely sinking and drowning. They're holding us up
I mean,
to a certain level.
You literally using the metaphor you did there, drowning, it kept me from the moment of, okay, I can tread water at least
Right.
to go
Till
from
the ship comes.
yeah, versus flailing and making it a lot worse. Because that is my first reaction is when something is going wrong is like, basically explode. Like, like, I gotta fix this right now. Come on. And I make it 100 times more awful than it is. So scripture was that thing that kept me treading water. Avoidance was definitely it still is when things during the last major lull, we were living in Omaha and our house had a basement, and my wife will tell you I hung out there more than I should have because there was good TV and good movies there, and nothing bad happens that sticks around in comedy shows.
But
that's one of those. Sorry, that's one of those things. So a couple of things that my counselor keeps popping into my head. I don't remember the exact wording, but kind of what you were talking about, Casey, is one of the things he likes to say is that when you're squeezed, what comes out is what you're made of. Something along those lines. I don't know the order, but like if you're filled with not goo, if you're filled with scriptures, if you're filled with Jesus, and when you get squeezed, when those tough times comes, that's those good habits. Those are what comes out. If it's
Things that make your butt big.
well, that's literally what you're filled with then.
but what
those
if it's anger?
Well,
Say
that's-
you're filled with anger.
yeah, that's what
when
comes out.
push comes to shove.
That's what comes out.
Blame, selfishness.
Yeah.
Is that-
Now, again, we're all poor, miserable sinners. So, like, when it's not always going to be sunshine and cupcakes that's coming out. Now, cupcakes also make your.
If cupcakes and some sunshine are coming out of you when you get squeezed, then
That
it sounds gross.
that does.
But
We're taking the analogy too far.
so
That is
that's
my
I
job.
see what you're
Yes.
saying.
those
though.
habits. If that's what you fall back on, it's because you've built those habits ahead of time. But if your habits are going back to alcohol or going back to drugs or going back to screaming at your children because then you can pass that out of you onto them, then that's when those good habits aren't being built in the interim. And then I don't remember what else I was going to say, but that was the one that was sticking with me.
And I think it takes, I don't know, scientists have said it takes 21 days to turn something into a habit. So
Yes.
I thought it
Again,
was
I
30
think it's
days.
even
Oh,
longer
I also
now.
thought it was
It's-
40
it's
days.
longer. 40. Yeah, I'm sure it's 40 days.
Just
Wander in the
well,
wilderness.
go back with 21. Start there.
So you have your book open here. What
Yeah,
are we
Stacey
looking at?
did homework.
I don't know. This was just my devotion this morning, and I thought maybe that can be helpful, but
Maybe. I don't know.
it
This
just
is a hard
stuck with me. But it says healing. This is a Beth Moore Whispers of Hope devotional prayer. There we go. Healing is found in God's word, not just in seeking healing, but in seeking him. We can be children of the living God and still sit in darkness and the deepest gloom as prisoners suffering in iron chains because we refuse his counsel. The writer of Psalm 119:92 testified to the healing power of God's word. If your law had not been my delight, I would have perished in my affliction. Only God can set you free. His word can soak the chains from your wrists. And I think that's where I go a lot, is I sit in that deepest gloom and I think, oh, woe is me, and this is hard. And God, I know you can pull me out of this. But in those moments, how often am I really seeking him? And I think especially this last year, I've seen that pattern, that negative pattern in me of, oh, this is just this COVID year, and this is just, we've been in isolation and there's nothing I can do about it. And I think that negative spiral is continuing in me, that when things get better, I will see God's hand more instead of, how do I see your hand now, God? And I've been challenged by two friends in particular this last year. One who lost a baby this last year and one whose baby is very sick. And both of them, watching them go through that, I'm like, that's what's missing in my heart, in my life, is just that trust and that vulnerability with God that says, this stinks. And it's so much more what I would consider worse than anything I've ever faced, what they have gone through this last year. But to see their faith shine makes me say, okay, God, they're taking you seriously. They're taking your word seriously, and they're doing what you ask them to do by seeking you. They don't know the outcome. They didn't know the outcome. This is not what they prayed for. But they're actually turning to you, not just seeking the healing, but seeking the healer.
They're just giving it. They're turning everything over.
Yes. And it's just been so convicting in my own heart. Like, I'm just sitting over here wallowing and saying, save me, God, when what am I giving back?
Yeah.
How am I seeking him?
I struggle
honestly,
with that,
truly in this.
That too sometimes, because I'm like, this isn't that bad. I'm like, this may seem terrible, but I'm like, this isn't that bad. There's others out there that have gone through so much, and their faith is so strong, and it's like, wow, it's mind blowing because it's like, how can you, how?
Yeah.
That's
right. When God talks about Sabbath rest, and resting with him, I think we've talked about this. The Hebrew word for Sabbath is Shabbat, which means to stop. But you have to slow down to stop. And I think, Casey, you and I are very similar in terms of avoidance. Like, I like to just say, well, if I go from this, I'll just put on the brakes, and the way that I can get my mind off this is watching some dumb show on Netflix.
Yep, that's me.
But how do you slow down, not to escape whatever this is, to recognize what you're going through, to recognize the pain, the hurt, the struggle, but then slow down for that loving union with God in the midst of that. Because it's that loving union that we're called to seek, not the healing, not the escape from the pain, but it's that loving union with God. Because even David, he'll say, "How long, O Lord? Be gracious to me, deliver my life." But then later he'll talk about just, you walk with me through this valley. And so how do you slow down, slow your mind down, right? So that you're not spiraling out of control, slow your life down so that you're not doing all of this stuff, because as long as I stay busy, I don't have to think about whatever this is. And so, I guess there. How do you slow down to give yourself a chance to spend time with Jesus?
I was hoping you'd tell me the answer.
I mean, I have.
That's kind of what I was like.
Come on, man.
I'm like, all right, that's the answer I'm looking for. Where is it?
I have an answer that's worked for me for the last 2 weeks, but because I'm a spiraler. Like I said, I'm a spiraler. I had to talk to my counselor about it and say, I I sit in this and I think and I think and I think and I think and I think, and then I get into places that I didn't need to get to. And the answer was he's a very strong LCMS guy. The answer threw me off because it felt very new agey. And it was meditation. And now he said, now let me disclaimer this. The main purpose of, I'll call it secular meditation, is to reach this nirvana, this state of just peace. But he said meditation, what it gives an opportunity for your mind and your body to settle so that you can spend time with Jesus. And so for the past few weeks since we've had that, I got an app for my phone that's been very helpful. And I meditate and then I do my devotion. And it has I've been at more peace in the last 2 weeks than I have in a long time. And it's not like I haven't been insanely busy and I haven't had lots of different things going on, but I've been able to calm my mind down enough and calm my body down enough to stay out of the spiral. Now, I still like the app. I'll tell you, it's called Headspace. It's
Not sponsored.
not a sponsor. Quite expensive. But
not when you.
But not when
you've
like
used it a lot.
I've used it every day. And I like, honestly, it's got this little thing. It'll take you on a journey to put you to sleep. Like it takes you on a train ride, or it takes you through the forest or whatever. like you did,
To grandma's house.
Like when you in class, when you'd put your head down and your teacher would say, now picture this,
Yes.
and you're on, and it was just this, but I will pass out to that in 30 seconds. Yeah. Oh, it's just, and I've slept hard. But there's still, I will tell you that like, I don't fully sponsor everything on there, and I wouldn't. It is a secular, meditation app. There was because we won't get into this too much, but there was the gay pride excitement video on here, and I was like, all right, next. So you have to move past some things. And again, it's going to try and get you to this sense of peace and nirvana, but really it's just an opportunity for me
To quiet your brain.
to quiet my brain. We've used it with my kids at night to
Quiet their brains.
There's kids versions. Kids sessions where it has them think about their toes falling asleep, and then their feet falling asleep,
was in
and then their legs falling
A
asleep.
yoga
and-
class
Speaking
that did that.
speaking of kids, we know that
I need to go get my kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stacy, go.
Stacey needs to go get her kids. So we're gonna say
Bye,
adieu.
everyone.
Bye, Stacey.
Bye.
Thank you.
And I promised her that I would shut the camera off.
You should probably wait until he shuts the camera off.
Oh, hold on. Let me put it on solo outlet. There we go.
That wasn't the deal.
All right.
That wasn't.
I'll let everybody look at me. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Paul.
And then when she walks by, okay, now we're done. All right, there we go. Bye, Stacey.
Drive
We'll miss
safely.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
P.S. I haven't asked. Can somebody give me a ride home?
Yeah, I can get
Oh.
you.
Okay.
Sit.
One of
Okay.
us will give you a ride home.
Okay. Thanks.
Um,
Thanks,
I
friends.
didn't even think about
We will fight to give Anthony
No,
a
you
ride.
have to walk.
The
It'll be good for you.
you talk about coping mechanisms and strategies of dealing with the spiral that you guys talk about. And of course, I'm sitting there now. I'm overly analyzing. Talking about overly analyzing. I'm not over analyzing. I'm just analyzing. It's like, okay, well, I don't really remember going down a spiral. There have been stressful times in my life, but I've never been to this point that and then have anxiety and then have to go get medications for it or whatever.
Right.
And so I keep on thinking of when during those times of stress, what I do. And I think the biggest thing, I had to boil it all down to one main thing, is that I am, I'm like this with everybody anyways, but I'm even worse with myself. I'm overly honest with what's going on. I'm even like that with anybody, but to myself, I'm like, what exactly is going on here and why? Even that's why I asked you about the avoidance thing, because I don't do that. I turn right to it and go, what is happening here? Is it my fault? And if not, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then because maybe it's just a guy thing going, oh, I got to figure out how to fix this, but it's not really that. There was a lot of times like I would actually sit there and go, this feeling I'm feeling right here, this gut thing and all this feeling, what exactly is causing it? And I've gone through this whole thing of going down a list. Is it this? Is it this? And I find that when I actually put my thumb on it, that feeling seems to go away.
Yeah.
And one advice I got, on that is, I only heard this about a month ago, but it's really stuck with me to stop my spiraling moments is prove your feelings. Like what you're feeling, give actual evidence, find actual evidence as to why you feel that way. And like, is it actually, and sometimes, yes, there should be something I need to deal with. And sometimes it's like, nope, that was an anxiety, that was some sort of anxiety that you're worried about that hasn't happened yet, that might never happen. There's no evidence to that. Stop as much as you can.
Yeah. And as parents, have you ever just had like a fleeting thought, knowing that you're like, for instance, Will does this to me all the time, because I know that if I say, Will, stop, don't run into the street, he won't listen to me.
Challenge accepted.
Well, and so I always have these like, oh my God, he's going to get hit by a car one day.
Oh yeah. Because they're, as much as we talk to our kids about, making sure you look both ways before you ride your bikes.
They're kids.
But I mean, not just like, even like, I'm worried that one day he'll be like, oh, I want to go over to this van that he's going to grab this, just weird thoughts.
Yeah.
There's precedents in the world that these things happen. The likelihood of that happening to my kid is very small.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you sit there and go, oh, I can overthink this. But at the same time, you still have those thoughts. But to me, it's like, all right, well,
It's the overwhelming urge to keep them safe. It's the overwhelming urge to keep your loved ones safe. So sometimes when you're like, oh, man, I really want to tell him we'll stop, but I'm afraid to tell him we'll stop because he'll just keep on going. So maybe if I don't address it, then maybe he will realize, oh, there's a car there.
She's overthinking,
Yes.
isn't she?
yeah, well, we're going down. I don't want to like loom on the example. I'm just saying there's all these different things that come into play. And
Can't help it. I'm so sorry.
You should
Paul.
meditate. Take 5 deep
Maybe
breaths.
I should.
well, and
Imagine your toes falling asleep.
and that is actually another coping mechanisms of mine, is that I make sure that whatever example because I put everything into examples and metaphor and I'm sitting there going, all right, but I'm not going to dwell on the example. Don't get sucked into the example. I don't know. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something, because I feel like I kind of left out on the spiraling group over here. And if that's
Consider yourself lucky.
no, I just
I was
don't.
gonna say,
I don't know
You
what.
could join us. It's not that fun.
Join the crazies over here. No, I just want to know what is happening. Like what you're turning the meditation.
Yeah.
You're going to avoidance. You're going to go eat chips or something.
Oh, that was terrible, Paul. But
Yes, accurate.
yeah, it's not chips, but yes.
I mean, I'm just wondering what.
You pretty much just called me fat on a podcast.
I did not.
That's how I'm taking that right now as a woman.
I mean, if
You're overthinking.
It is the COVID weight. I will admit that. But anyways.
I mean,
See,
he could have
he's
called me
honest.
by avoidance. He could have called me lazy too. So
Oh,
It's
there
not-
we go.
Well, yeah, you basement dwelling laziness. I don't know. I just
like a hobbit.
I'm going to dig myself into a hole.
So what are you asking?
I'm asking the question is, are we internalizing this stuff to ourselves, or actually are we turning it to God and going, please take this? And that's really what.
Yeah.
I'm internalizing it to myself because I'm trying to figure out how I can fix it.
Yeah. And
And is that causing more
And it's-
spiral than not?
And maybe,
Yes.
in truth be told, it's not even my situation to
Yep.
fix. I'm just trying to make everybody happy.
well,
Sorry.
and
To
one of-
make everybody happy.
Over the red songs.
Well, if you go, so I'm gonna give an example that doesn't connect this. If you go in to the church that we worship in at Trinity Lutheran, there's a beautiful cross that hangs in the entryway that has a lot of the names that Jesus is known by, and there's many
there
of
is?
them. Yeah,
It's on the cream colored wall by the hand sanitizer.
Oh, I don't go over there.
but it's by the entrance to the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Likewise,
Multi-purpose room.
there are names that are given to Satan in the Bible. He has not as many as Jesus, but there are several of them. One of the main ones he is called is the accuser, meaning one of Satan's favorite things to do is to accuse us of things that we are not, or focus on things that we have done, and to beat us down, because Satan wants to use any weapon possible to tear us apart from God, whether it's something we've done, whether it's guilt, whether it's whether it's those spirals, whether it's indulging in something. He accuses us of being less than something, and in most cases, Satan is right on some level. We are imperfect. But his job is to separate us from God. And if that can be the spirals, if it can be overeating, avoidance, or coping in something else, he will use it. It is his job to get you away from heaven. That's why it is important to cling to God, because what God calls you, he never accuses you of what you've done or what you think you might have done. He calls you my child through baptism. So I think is exactly what you were saying, Paul. It's what Satan does to us. We sit in it's well, it's part of being in the spiraling crew over here. It's I know that's what Satan is doing to me.
Well, I was thinking of even Stacy's comments before. She had those feelings during your guys' little escapade, and she listed off
Yeah.
like 10.
Yeah.
And one of them was shame, and one of them was, not disappointment, but like she was worried that people were what she said actually used like the red scarlet.
Yeah, the scarlet letter. Yeah.
And so it's like some of this stuff, even though you guys in your heart and everything, that like that situation is ridiculous.
Right.
Yet
There's still that, but what if?
yeah.
Yeah. And there's still that shame of my daughter broke her leg. Like and we were taking that on ourselves. Yeah, one of the things, again, I'm talking a lot about my counselor. One of the things, just in case if you if you are in a dark place, if you are at rock bottom, we talked about this either last week or the week before, but find someone to talk to. Talk to someone, a professional. Like I said, I said this that time as well. Pastors, we will pray with you. We will read God's word with you. We will mentor you, and spiritually work with you. But we're really not trained. Most of us, some are, but we're not trained counselors. Like I said, I had one counseling class. And so some of these things we can help. We can have conversations with. But I'm going to encourage you to seek someone who's professionally trained. And if it's Grace Point in Omaha, that's where I go. Or Lincoln. Yep. They've got places. They're in both places. Grace Point, it's relationalhealth.org. It's just fantastic.
And that's who I sought out, because I was spiraling so bad. I didn't think of it. It took my wife going, this isn't good. You should think about seeing someone. Yep. And I had this whole, I'm a guy. I don't need that. And it took about 5 minutes into my visit for the first time going, I needed this.
Yeah, it's good that we talk.
It is.
God said we shouldn't be alone.
Right. But we try and
suck ourselves.
Yeah. Avoidance.
Yeah. But absolutely. But seek someone. But one of the things that he told me at the very beginning of our conversation, as I was talking about this spiral, he's like, why do you spend so much energy worrying about things that you have no control over?
I asked the same question.
I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you guys look at me like, because I'm like, it doesn't matter. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I know.
But why? And that stuck with me. And that's been part of the reason I've been in a much better place.
Oh, sure. The doctor says it.
Well, because
he sticks with him. I say it for months, and he's just like, whatever, Paul.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I paid him. No, actually I didn't, because
he has
check your insurance, call your insurance company. They may have
your insurance company paid for him.
Yeah, they may have certain benefits for free counseling for 6 to 12 sessions a year.
And as someone who's on the insurance industry, I can tell you that is a vastly growing trend. If it wasn't in your benefits even like 3 years ago, seriously check. They are changing rapidly because the world is coming around to this idea that it is needed, okay, and helpful.
Like mental health is important, and it is. So thanks, Paul, for trying to get that across. But I needed to be in a different place to hear it.
I know.
From a certain person.
I don't really care.
So yeah, it doesn't matter, Paul.
It doesn't matter. As long as you heard it.
Yep. And that's really like I had to hear that. I spend so much energy, and I also don't sleep. So I spend energy and I lose sleep.
So where you gain energy, you're not gaining it.
So I never get the energy, and it's just, and then when I'm tired, it's so much more easy to spiral.
That was the other one I was going to go to if you did bring it up. Like I
Sleep.
am by far the worst, whether it's spiraling, avoidance, or just negative outlook when I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yep.
And other than
And
that,
hungry.
the only other advice I would have, and you can hear me now or wait till your counselor tells you later, is to be blatantly honest with yourselves.
Yeah.
I don't think any advice that I've ever had in my life, and I've given, listened to a situation, is that I've always said, we're going to be honestly looking at this thing, and regardless if it hurts your feelings or you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, I feel like that leads to more spiraling than anything is sitting there going, well, I don't really want to face this, and I don't want to hear what is going on.
100% yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Guilty as charged.
All right. So anyways, the point is that you guys can pay me later. Have your insurance company. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Pretty sure they don't approve this location.
Nope. Sorry. Yeah.
They're not in my network.
Not my network. I'm on a network.
Yep. Sorry.
But depending on your coverage, they might still give you something.
And if you really need something, go hug Katie. Katie the comfort
Yeah.
dog.
Yes.
That helps.
Pure
Yes,
Trinity is
she's-
an awesome ministry.
She's getting back, and we are in the process of a second dog. And so we're expecting, and so we're looking for because we have to create a whole new team. So if you'd love to care for
Not
a
a part of
puppy,
that.
I would love to.
if
but
you'd love to
nope. can't put
work
my
with,
hand in that
be what's
bucket.
called a handler, where you are in charge of making sure Katie follows commands, and your job is to keep Katie's that
the
dog,
new dog.
the new dog safe.
Fido.
Yeah, probably won't be Fido.
We'll call it Fido until we find out.
But or ministry partners where you go with, and you are trained in those. You were, and everyone that, because we had Katie team talk at all the services, and every one of them, as they got up there, they're like, 3 years ago I never would have even thought about standing in front of people and talking, and they were all
Up there talking.
because they
For
just
an hour. No, I was kidding.
because they've gotten out of their comfort zones, and it's not always easy, but they've brought through that process, been able to bring so much comfort to those who really have hit rock bottom, who have, they've been to multiple shootings, and disasters, and been able to bring comfort where
Comfort is needed.
where comfort's needed. So if you're interested, you do not have to be a member of Trinity to be a part of that ministry. And so if you're interested in that, especially active or retired military, active or retired law enforcement, Katie gets different vests. So there's, or the comfort dog gets different vests. Katie is military vested, but not
Law enforcement.
law enforcement vested, because to have that vest, she has to be one of the handler with her has to be
Retired.
active or retired in that area. So if you are one of those, if you're active
Or you know somebody.
or somebody active or retired, feel free to reach out.
Yeah. And I still have plans to try to get Stephen Ministry program
Yep.
going.
It's in
which
the
is
budget.
It's in the budget? Yay. Okay.
So-
Well,
There you go.
on top of that. Anyways, do
Yeah.
we want to finish up? Who's praying today?
It's me. I was just seeing if anyone was going to jump in, but but it was me.
A live prayer? Are you kidding? I might have. How do I prepare for that?
You talk to Jesus.
Let's start thinking about it.
When you get squeezed, what comes out of you is what you're made of. So
Giggles.
let's pray. Dear Jesus, we just thank you that you are in control, and we don't have to spend time worrying about things that are beyond our control. We don't need to worry about tomorrow. Today has enough worries of its own, and you just call us to focus on today, because you will take care of us. You will, like the grass of the field is clothed, like the birds of the air are fed. You know that we need those, and you provide. And so we just ask that you would be with those who are at rock bottom, that they would be able to cling to you, and that you would, through your church here on this earth, through individuals, through what maybe it's a Comfort Dog ministry team or whatever it is, through your word, that you would bring them comfort, and that you would stand them up, and that they might put their feet on that solid rock of Jesus. And we just thank you for that solid foundation that we can have. And we also want to pray for those who are not at rock bottom, who are in those good places, that they could be putting different things into place, and so that when they do get squeezed, that what comes out of them is love and joy and peace and patience, and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. And we just ask that you would continue to work in their lives, continue to work in our lives, so that your name might be praised in all the nations. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
So my question is to you: when you're squeezed, what comes out of you? Do you avoid things? Are you honest with everything that's going on in your lives? And are you currently taking these issues and just putting it into a little bag and carrying it around with you? Or are you going to turn it over to God and say, I can't handle this anymore? Those are the questions that we kind of talked about today. And I hope that you guys will talk about that with your families and your friends and with yourselves.
Yep. Or with someone professional.
Or for somebody professional, yes.
Yep.
So, anything else?
Nope.
Diaper drive.
Any
Good Shepherd people watching, we want you to lose.
Mm-hmm. We all win.
We all win. We all win.
But you're going to lose.
But Trinity needs to win.
But bring him to Trinity. You can order, even if you're nowhere near Fremont, you can order them on Amazon or Walmart or Target or wherever or Kirkland.
Wherever.
1546 North Luther Road, Fremont, Nebraska, 68025.
There you
Send
go.
them right there.
There you go.
Shameless plug for diapers.
Gotta
cover the butts.
Just so you know, those diapers then will go to Lutheran Family Services, that they'll be distributed to all those families in need in our community. So,
and on that
thank
note,
you.
we say bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week. We pray that the Holy Spirit has used this time to focus you in on the one thing that you can practice this week as you live out your faith in your family and in your community. If you found this helpful, feel free to share it with a friend. If you would like to support the work that God is doing through Trinity Fremont, you can text a donation to 1-844-353-5782, or you can give online at www.trinityfremont.com/donate.